First Contact's puzzle. The archivist's station hung in space like a massive crystalline snowflake, its geometric patterns refracting starlight in ways that defied conventional physics. For 3 centuries, 17 different spacefaring civilizations had attempted to unlock its secrets. None had succeeded. The station's own power systems hummed with the same efficiency as the day it was abandoned, maintaining temperature and atmosphere within its countless chambers, waiting for worthy inheritors of its knowledge. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the human research vessel Copernicus, her dark eyes fixed on the station's ever-shifting surface. Her 12-year-old son, Marcus, pressed his face against the reinforced glass beside her, his fingers drumming an irregular pattern on the railing. "Mom, it's singing," he said, not taking his eyes off the station. Sarah glanced down at her son, then back at her datapad. The harmonic frequencies from the station's shield matrix do create a sort of audio pattern. But no, Marcus interrupted, still drumming. "Listen to it. Really listen." Before Sarah could respond, the deck's doors slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Xerix of the Vedrani Confederation entered, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the starlight in a way that reminded Sarah of the station itself. Behind him, 2 Meridian observers followed, their tentacled forms swaying with characteristic anxiety. Dr. Chen. Xerix's translation matrix converted his crystalline resonances into smooth English. "The Coalition Council is concerned about allowing human participation in this research phase. Your species has been spacefaring for barely 2 centuries. The archivist's puzzles have driven far older civilizations to madness." Sarah straightened, adopting her professional posture. "With respect, Ambassador, that's precisely why we should be involved." Fresh perspectives. "Mom," Marcus interrupted again, louder this time. It changed its song when they came in. The Meridian observers rippled their tentacles in what Sarah recognized as their species' equivalent of dismissive laughter. But Xerix moved closer to the window, his crystalline form vibrating at a frequency that suggested intense interest. "Young human," he addressed Marcus directly. "What do you mean by changed its song?" Marcus finally turned from the window, his hand still moving in that irregular pattern. "When it was just us, it was playing in 7/4 time. When you came in, it switched to something more like, I don't know, it's not really a time signature, I know. But it's responding to who's here." Sarah watched as Xerix's external crystals shifted color, a sign of deep thought among his people. The Meridians had stopped their dismissive movements, their sensory tentacles now oriented toward Marcus with rigid attention. "Impossible," one of the Meridians vibrated through their translator. "The station's energy patterns have remained constant since its discovery. We have monitored every frequency." "Yeah, but did you listen to them?" Marcus asked, with the innocent directness only a child could manage. He walked over to the deck's environmental control panel, and before anyone could stop him, tapped out a rhythm on its surface. The station's external lights pulsed once, twice, then shifted into a new configuration. The Meridian's tentacles went rigid with shock. Xerix's crystalline form emanated frequencies that Sarah's instruments would later identify as amazement, and Sarah herself felt her scientific skepticism wrestling with maternal pride as she watched her son start what would become humanity's greatest contribution to galactic society. "How did you?" Xerix began, but Marcus was already back at the window, tapping out a more complex rhythm on the railing. "It's like those logic puzzles you give me, Mom," he said, eyes fixed on the station's responding lights. "But instead of just looking for the pattern, you have to feel it." The archivists didn't want someone to solve their puzzles. They wanted someone who could dance with them. Sarah's datapad chimed with incoming readings as the station's external energy patterns began shifting in ways never before recorded. But for the first time in her career, she ignored the data. Instead, she watched her son conduct an impossible symphony with an ancient alien artifact and realized that humanity's gift to the galaxy might not be their technology or their science, but something far more fundamental: their ability to find beauty in patterns that other species had dismissed as chaos. The next 12 hours aboard the Copernicus would rewrite the accepted laws of synorcheology. The next 12 days would reshape galactic society. And it all began because a 12-year-old boy decided to tap along with a song that only he could hear. As news spread across the research fleet, Sarah noticed something remarkable. The dismissive attitudes of the alien scientists were being replaced by something she'd never seen before: hope. For centuries, they had approached the archivist station as a problem to be solved. Now, thanks to a child's intuition, they were beginning to see it as a conversation waiting to happen. Marcus continued his improvised percussion on the railing, and with each new rhythm, more of the station's lights responded. Sarah realized that her son wasn't just solving a puzzle. He was teaching them all a new way to listen. The mathematics of music. The first team to enter the archivist station included 3 humans, 2 Vedrani, and a Meridian observer. Marcus insisted on bringing his mother's old synthesizer, despite the protests of several xenorcheologists who feared introducing foreign technology. As they crossed the airlock threshold, the station's interior illuminated with soft, pulsing lights that seemed to follow them. "The harmonics are different here," Marcus said, running his fingers across the synthesizer's keys without pressing them. "It's like being inside the music instead of just listening to it." Dr. Chen kept one hand on her son's shoulder while her other held a scanner that displayed readings unlike anything she'd seen in 15 years of synorcheology. The station's corridors curved in ways that suggested non-Euclidean geometry, yet somehow remained perfectly navigable. Xerix moved ahead, his crystalline form resonating with the station's frequencies. In 3 centuries of study, no species has made it past the first chamber's security protocols. We should proceed with extreme. He stopped speaking as Marcus began to play. The notes weren't complex, a simple melody that echoed through the corridor. But as the sound traveled, the station's walls responded. Patterns of light danced across surfaces that had remained dormant for centuries, forming intricate mathematical equations that shifted and evolved with each new note. "Impossible," breathed the Meridian observer, all 4 primary tentacles rigid with shock. "Those are quantum mechanics formulae, but they're wrong." Or, "Not wrong," Sarah corrected, watching the equations morph with her son's music. "They're in motion." "Marcus, honey, can you explain what you're playing?" Marcus shrugged, fingers still moving across the keys. "It's the same pattern the walls are humming, just turned inside out. Like a mirror, but with sound." The Vedrani scientists' crystalline forms vibrated with increasing intensity as they recorded the unprecedented event. The equations weren't just displaying information. They were responding to human music in ways that suggested a deeper understanding of universal constants than any known civilization had achieved. As they proceeded deeper into the station, Marcus's playing evolved. He began incorporating elements of the station's own harmonics into his melody, creating a duet between human music and alien mathematics. With each chamber they entered, more secrets revealed themselves. "Look at this," one of the Vedrani scientists suddenly called out, their crystals flashing with excitement. "The quantum equations, they're not just theoretical, they're engineering schematics." Sarah studied the flowing mathematical patterns with growing amazement. "Not just engineering. These are teaching tools." The archivists weren't just leaving behind knowledge. They were creating an interactive lesson plan. Marcus paused his playing, and the patterns froze in mid-transformation. "Like my piano teacher," he said thoughtfully. "She doesn't just tell me what notes to play. She helps me understand why they work together." The revelation hit Sarah with stunning clarity. That's why no species has been able to crack this. We've all been trying to solve it like a lock, when it's actually a classroom. Xerix finished, his crystalline form glowing with understanding. The archivists were not seeking worthy inheritors. They were seeking worthy teachers. Word of their discovery spread quickly through the research fleet. Within hours, Ships from dozens of species were approaching the station, each claiming their right to access the archivist's knowledge. The simple exploration team found themselves at the center of a growing diplomatic crisis. But Marcus remained focused on the music. As diplomatic channels filled with angry demands and territorial claims, he discovered that each new chamber required a different approach. Some responded to classical Earth compositions, others to improvised jazz rhythms. Each successful interaction revealed more of the archivist's teaching methods. "Mom," he called out during their second day of exploration, "I think I figured something out. The station doesn't just want us to play the right notes. It wants us to understand why they're right." Sarah watched as her son demonstrated, playing a simple scale that the station translated into a visual representation of wave physics. Then he deliberately played a wrong note, but instead of rejecting it, the station incorporated the error into its display, showing how the disruption affected the entire pattern. "It's not testing us," Marcus explained, his fingers dancing across the keys. "It's showing us how to learn from our mistakes." This revelation proved crucial as more species arrived at the station. The human approach to learning, embracing error as part of the process, was fundamentally different from many older civilizations' rigid pursuit of perfection. It was becoming clear why humanity, despite their relative youth among the stars, might be uniquely qualified to help unlock the archivist's legacy. As the second day drew to a close, Marcus made another breakthrough. During a rest break, he began teaching the simple Earth melody to a young Vedrani scientist. As they played together, the station's responses became more complex and revealing than ever before. The knowledge isn't meant for one species, Sarah realized, watching the interaction. The archivists wanted us to learn together, to teach each other. That's why it responded to Marcus, not just because he understood the patterns, but because his first instinct was to share that understanding. The implications were staggering. The station wasn't just a repository of advanced knowledge. It was a tool for fostering interspecies cooperation and mutual understanding. And humanity, with their unique blend of pattern recognition, creativity, and willingness to learn through trial and error, might be the key to unlocking its full potential. As the diplomatic crisis loomed overhead, Sarah watched her son continue teaching simple Earth songs to alien scientists. In those quiet moments of shared discovery, she saw the true purpose of the archivist's grand design and humanity's unexpected role in bringing it to fruition. Symphony of Solutions. The third day aboard the archivist station began with crisis. The arrival of the hegemony battle fleet on the edge of the system had turned an academic discovery into a potential flashpoint for interstellar conflict. The hegemony, one of the oldest spacefaring civilizations, claimed ancestral rights to all archivist technology. Inside the station, however, Marcus Chen had just made another breakthrough. The music changes when everyone works together, he explained to the growing crowd of xenoscientists gathered in what they dubbed the Harmony Chamber. The vast circular room's walls rippled with mathematical equations that pulsed in time with any sound made within it. Sarah watched as her son organized what had to be the strangest orchestra in human history. A quartet of meridians provided bass frequencies with their resonating tentacles. 3 Vedrani scientists added crystalline harmonics. A group of Zexetl contributed their natural electromagnetic pulses. And at the center, Marcus conducted them all while playing his synthesizer. "The patterns are stronger now," noted Dr. Call, a Zexetl mathematician whose species had spent centuries studying the archivist's work. "We're seeing theoretical frameworks that weren't visible before." The chamber's walls blazed with new equations as the impromptu concert continued. What had started as simple pattern recognition was evolving into something far more profound. The mathematics of music was becoming the music of mathematics. Above them, in the station's newly accessible observation dome, diplomatic tensions were reaching a breaking point. The hegemony's demands for immediate withdrawal of all other species grew more strident with each passing hour, but their threats were interrupted by an unexpected transmission from the station itself. For the first time in recorded history, The archivist's technology was broadcasting. The message wasn't in words or even standard data packets. It was music, the complex harmonies being created in the harmony chamber, transformed into pure mathematical principles that any spacefaring race could understand. The equations proved what Marcus had intuited from the start. The station's knowledge could only be fully accessed through cooperation. "Look at this," Sarah called out, pointing to a new pattern emerging on the chamber's walls. "These aren't just scientific formulae anymore. They're stories." The mathematical patterns were shifting into historical records, showing how the archivists had developed their understanding of the universe. Each discovery was linked to instances of cooperation between different groups within their society. Their greatest achievements had come not from competition, but from harmony. In the harmony chamber, the implications of this discovery led to another breakthrough. A young Meridian scholar noticed that the station's responses weren't just teaching scientific principles, they were demonstrating practical applications. The very technology that powered the station was based on harmonious energy patterns between different forms of matter. The archivists didn't just want us to learn their science, Sarah realized. They wanted us to understand why they developed it this way. The cooperation isn't just about sharing knowledge. It's fundamental to how their technology works. Marcus nodded, his fingers tracing silent patterns on his synthesizer keys. Like how different instruments support each other in an orchestra. If everyone tries to play the loudest, it just makes noise. But if everyone listens to each other, the station's walls pulsed with approval, displaying new layers of information about energy systems based on synchronized frequencies between different types of matter. The hegemony's crystal drives were just a crude approximation of what was possible when true harmony was achieved. As the day progressed, more species arrived at the station, but instead of adding to the tension, each new arrival found themselves drawn into the growing symphony of discovery. The station responded to each unique contribution, revealing more of its secrets as the cooperation expanded. A breakthrough came when a young hegemony scientist, defying her government's orders, joined the research team. Her species' unique understanding of crystalline harmonics, combined with human musical theory, and the other races' contributions, unlocked an entirely new level of interaction with the station. The archivists weren't just leaving us their knowledge, she declared, her crystalline appendages resonating with excitement. They were leaving us a way to move beyond the conflicts that held them back. The station isn't just teaching us science, it's teaching us how to work together. In the harmony chamber, Marcus had begun teaching alien children how to play simple Earth songs on improvised instruments. The station's responses to their imperfect but enthusiastic attempts were stronger than any previous interactions. The walls blazed with new patterns that combined mathematical precision with artistic beauty. "Mom," Marcus called out, his hands paused above the synthesizer keys. "I think I know why the archivists left. They weren't extinct or defeated. They evolved. They learned how to turn all their science and art into pure harmony. And now they're teaching us how to follow them." Sarah looked at her son, surrounded by young aliens learning to make music together, and understood. The archivists hadn't just left behind technology or knowledge. They had left behind hope. Hope that other species could learn what had taken them millennia to understand. That the universe's greatest mysteries could only be solved through cooperation. As the third day aboard the station drew to a close, the crisis that had threatened to spark an interstellar war was transforming into something unprecedented. A symphony of species, learning to make music together among the stars. Harmony of understanding. The fourth day aboard the Archivist station began with a discovery that silenced every debate about species superiority. In what had become known as the Genesis Chamber, Marcus and his growing group of alien students uncovered something that changed everything. The archivist's own story of failure. The chamber's walls displayed mathematical harmonies that told of civilizations that had destroyed themselves seeking power instead of understanding. The archivists hadn't achieved their greatness through superiority. They had learned it through countless mistakes. They were like us once, Marcus explained to the assembled scientists, his hands moving across his synthesizer with increasing confidence. They fought wars. They competed. But then they learned something important. The station's responses to his playing revealed historical records that struck uncomfortably close to home for many species present. The archivists had faced the same challenges now threatening to tear the galaxy apart. Resource conflicts, technological disparities, cultural misunderstandings. Sarah watched as her son's music drew forth images of ancient wars fought with weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. They could have destroyed everything, she murmured. Instead, they chose to change. The breakthrough came during what started as a simple teaching session. Marcus had been showing a young hegemony crystal singer named Ixta how to play Earth classical music. The combination of human melody and crystalline harmonics triggered something new in the station's systems. The Genesis chamber's walls erupted with light, and suddenly they were surrounded by a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. But not as it existed now. They were seeing it as it had been when the archivists roamed the stars. "Look at the patterns," Dr. Kuhl exclaimed, their electromagnetic field pulsing with excitement. The archivist civilization wasn't confined to specific worlds or systems. They found a way to exist in the spaces between. The map showed how the archivists had transformed their entire civilization, moving beyond physical form to exist as patterns of energy and harmony throughout the galaxy. Their technology hadn't been about domination or even preservation. It was about transcendence. Marcus and Ixta continued playing together, their combined music drawing forth more revelations. The archivists hadn't abandoned the galaxy. They had become part of its fundamental fabric. The very cosmic background radiation that permeated space carried echoes of their harmonies. That's why the station responds to music, Sarah realized. It's not just a teaching tool. It's a bridge between physical existence and whatever the archivist became. The implications were staggering. Every species present had been searching for ways to surpass their limitations through technology or conquest. But the archivists had discovered something far more profound, a way to evolve beyond the need for either. As this understanding spread through the station, something remarkable began to happen. The various diplomatic representatives, who had been arguing about ownership rights, fell silent. The hegemony fleet, still resonating with the station's harmonies, began picking up traces of archivist patterns in space itself. "They left us breadcrumbs," Marcus said, his young face serious with understanding. "Not just to find them, but to understand why they chose this path. The music isn't just about making pretty sounds. It's about learning to see the patterns that connect everything." The afternoon brought another revelation. When species work together in specific harmonic combinations, they could temporarily access higher levels of perception. Through these brief glimpses, they began to understand what the archivists had become. A Meridian mathematician, working with a human musician and a Vedrani crystallographer, managed to sustain one of these enhanced states long enough to decode a complex message hidden in the station's basic operating protocols. The message was simple but profound. Harmony is not the absence of difference, but the celebration of it. As evening approached, Marcus gathered his increasingly diverse group of students for what he called a concert of understanding. Each young alien contributed their species' natural harmonics while learning to appreciate the unique signatures of others. The station's response to this pure expression of cooperative learning was unprecedented. The Genesis chamber transformed into a vast mathematical symphony, each equation and formula pulsing with the combined music of a dozen species. "Mom," Marcus called out during a pause, "I think we're ready for the next part. The station. It's been waiting for us to understand this before showing us something bigger." Sarah looked at her son, surrounded by young aliens who had moved beyond mere cooperation into true collaboration, and felt a shiver of anticipation. The archivists hadn't just left behind the means for technological advancement. They had created a path for all species to follow them into a new form of existence. But as the fourth day drew to a close, a new challenge emerged. The station's power signatures began to fluctuate in ways that suggested an imminent change. Whatever the archivists had planned for their successors, it would require more than just understanding. It would demand a level of trust between species that had never before existed in the galaxy. The question was no longer about who would claim the archivists' legacy. It was about whether the gathered species could overcome millennia of distrust to embrace what the archivists were offering. A chance to transcend not just physical limitations, but the very barriers between civilizations. As Marcus led his interspecies orchestra in one final piece for the day, Sarah realized that humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't just their ability to recognize patterns or think creatively. It was their capacity to dream of something better, and their willingness to share that dream with others. Universal resonance. The fifth day aboard the Archivist station dawned with a symphony of alarms. The station's power signatures had evolved beyond anything previously recorded, its crystalline surfaces vibrating with frequencies that made even the Vedrani's forms resonate uncomfortably. In the Genesis chamber, equations blazed across the walls with unprecedented urgency. "It's not a malfunction," Marcus said, his fingers dancing across his synthesizer's keys as he tried to match the station's new harmonies. "It's asking us to do something. All of us. Together." The station's message became clear as more species gathered in the chamber. The harmonics were forming a complex mathematical pattern that required input from every major spacefaring race present. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about proving they could truly work as one. The archivists aren't just teaching us, Sarah realized, watching as representatives from 17 different species arranged themselves around the chamber. They're testing if we're ready to follow their path. The challenge seemed impossible at first. Each species needed to contribute their unique resonance frequency in perfect harmony with the others, creating a symphony of consciousness that had never before been attempted. The margin for error was zero, and the consequences of failure were unknown. Marcus took charge with the natural authority of someone who sees patterns where others see chaos. "Everyone has their own special sound," he explained to the gathered beings. "We don't need to make the same sound. We just need to make our sounds fit together." The first attempt was discordant. The second produced harmonies that made the station's walls shudder. But with each try, the species learned to adjust, to listen, to blend their contributions into something greater than themselves. It was a young hegemony crystal singer who made the breakthrough. "The station's not just measuring our harmony," Ixta announced, her crystalline form glowing with excitement. "It's measuring our intent. We have to want to work together, not just go through the motions." This revelation changed everything. The gathered species stopped trying to simply match frequencies and began truly listening to each other. The Meridian's tentacular vibrations provided a foundation. The Vedrani's crystalline resonance added structure. The Zixessel's electromagnetic pulses wove through the gaps. Human music bounded all together. As the harmony grew stronger, the station's response became extraordinary. The Genesis chamber's walls seemed to dissolve, revealing the true nature of space around them. They could see the patterns the archivists had discovered, the mathematical poetry that united all matter and energy in the universe. "Look," Marcus called out, his voice filled with wonder. "The space between stars. It's not empty. It's full of music." The assembled scientists watched in awe as their combined harmony revealed layers of reality they had never imagined. The very fabric of space-time resonated with complex patterns, the archivist's legacy written into the structure of the universe itself. But the station wasn't finished. As the harmony reached its peak, a new presence made itself known, not through words or images, but through pure mathematical truth that transcended language. The archivists had not abandoned the galaxy. They had become its music. Through the harmony they had created together, the gathered species gained a momentary glimpse of what the archivists had become. They existed now as patterns of pure consciousness, their understanding of reality so profound that they had transcended physical form entirely. And they were offering to show others the way. "This was never about claiming their technology," Sarah whispered, Watching as her son conducted the interstellar symphony, it was about proving we could grow beyond our limitations, together. The station's final gift was both simpler and more profound than anyone had imagined. Through their combined harmony, the gathered species gained access not to weapons or power sources, but to a new way of seeing the universe and each other. The hegemony fleet, still resonating with the station's frequencies, was the first to understand. Their centuries-old drive for dominance dissolved in the face of this greater truth. Other species followed, one by one, as the harmony revealed possibilities that made their old conflicts seem meaningless. As the day drew to a close, Marcus gathered his intergalactic orchestra one final time. But now they played not to unlock the station's secrets, but to celebrate what they had discovered together. The music they created was unlike anything ever heard in the galaxy, a perfect blend of 17 different species' natural harmonies, bound together by human melody. The station's response was beyond anything they had seen before. The walls between physical space and the higher dimensions the archivists inhabited grew thin. For a brief moment, every being present felt what it meant to exist as pure harmony. "They're not gone," Marcus said softly as the music faded. "They're just waiting for us to learn how to sing with them." Sarah looked at her son, then at the gathered species who had moved from suspicion to cooperation to genuine harmony in just 5 days. Humanity's gift to the galaxy had not been technology or power, or even music itself. It had been something far simpler: the ability to see patterns of connection where others saw only chaos, and the willingness to share that vision with everyone. The Archivist Station would remain, not as a source of power to be claimed, but as a school where species could learn to hear the music of the universe together. And somewhere in the harmony between the stars, the Archivists continued their eternal symphony, waiting for the day when others would be ready to join their chorus. In the end, it was not humanity's strength or intelligence that had unlocked the greatest mystery in the galaxy. It was their ability to find beauty in differences, to see harmony in discord, and to share the simple joy of making music together. The universe, it turned out, had been singing all along. They had just needed to learn how to listen.